Welcome to Get Your Bell Rung Pro Wrestling Podcast, the Wednesday night Dynamite, March 25th, 2026 recap. I am joined by WCW veteran, author of Looking Up at the Lights. By God, please buy that book. It's an awesome book, guys. Looking Up at the Lights. I'm talking about none other than Robbie Idol. Also with us is Rasslin Memories co-host, a man who has one hell of a memory when it comes to professional wrestling history. I am talking about the Grizzled Vet. Gentlemen, how are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
I am doing good. Guys, look. I know the podcast, I like to base everything on positivity, not negative shit, but sometimes things happen that I want to talk about because it's so goddamn funny. And this is one of those times. So I guess Nic Nemeth, Dolph Ziggler, for those who don't know his real name, said some things on Busted Open Radio about MJF. Well, MJF responded to it, and I read it right before we went live, and I want to read what he said because I just think it's funny. MJF says, I've been listening to Nic Nemeth trashing me through vile advice and notes on Busted Open for months, when in reality, he's just shitting on me out of jealousy. This dude actually said I remind him of a younger Dolph Ziggler. LOL. I don't remember ever being an overhyped mid-carder. This dude is delusional. This dude is jealous. And most importantly, this dude should keep my name out of his fucking mouth. Warning, parents, don't let your kids watch this podcast with you. This is an adult podcast. I'm the most complete professional wrestler in the world. You don't lace my boots or carry my mic. Say my name again on your little show and I'll beat the fucking shit out of you. You know where to find me. In the meantime, I'm going to focus on my world title defense against the God, Kenny Omega at Dynasty, because I only face the best of the best. Let me know when the Spirit Squad guys belong in that conversation. I love MJF. Look, now I personally think this is MJF just kayfabing, right? I don't think this is a shoot. I think this is him kayfabing because, and I hope MJF doesn't listen to this because he's going to cuss us out for saying this about him.
Oh, he's watching right now. Come on.
But anyone who has had the opportunity to meet the real MJF, not the wrestling guy, the person, they've all said that he's such a nice young man. He's so respectful when it comes to professional wrestlers. So I have a hard time believing that he meant this. But at the same time, you just never fucking know. Regardless, that's why I love MJF. He is probably my favorite fucking heel in professional wrestling. Robbie, shoot or kayfabe, man?
Not knowing him, I don't know. I mean, but probably kayfabe. I mean, the dude, to me, out of everybody, you take all your organizations, AEW, WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor, all that. He's the best guy going today.
Yeah.
You know, he is the complete package. He's the top of the line. You know, all the stuff you see, like the stuff you see with at the signings and stuff, like even when a kid gives him like the WWE belt to sign, he signs it and throws it on the floor and stuff. It's just, I think it's just to keep his image, you know, that's that kayfabe thing to keep, here's the image of it, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And look, they say that in sports, one person can't really make a difference, that it's all about teamwork. And I've always disagreed with that, but I really disagree with that in professional wrestling, because when MJF is gone for long periods of time, I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of times when AEW isn't as good as I would like it, I always hold on to the fact that, well, MJF's here tonight though, so that segment's going to be coming up. When he's going and AEW is not performing at, its peak, it's hard to keep watching it. MJ, I agree with you. MJF is a total goddamn package. He really is. To me, he is a throwback. He is, if Ric Flair and who's the other guy I used to say he reminded me of? I can't remember, but MJF reminds me to a throwback Ric Flair. A lot of the things that he does reminds me of a lot of Ric Flair's mannerisms that he did and the way he delivers stuff. Grizzled, same thing, man. Do you think this is a shoot? Or is this MJF, keeping kayfabe and being the great worker that he is?
In my opinion, MJF is very good at what he does. And what he does is he draws that line between him and the character. And he draws it so well, you don't know where he's at when he's crossing it.
Right.
And that's the part I like about it. He did that interview with Chris Van Vliet, here a couple weeks ago. And he was like, "Oh, never met you before." And he played that up the entire time. But you damn well know he knew who he was, and he knew he did an interview with him before.
Right.
But he can play it up where you do kind of question it. You don't know where it lies. I hadn't heard this whole thing from Dolph. I do understand that I guess he's wrestling Dolph Ziggler or Nic Nemeth at a show coming up or something.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I didn't mention that because I hadn't had a chance to confirm that.
I saw a graphic right before I came on, and my son had to come out and tell me about it.
Good.
That they were wrestling. But so I'm gonna say he's doing this in character. I probably doesn't have any issue with Nic Nemeth, and he's just doing what he's got to do. But like I said, in true MJF fashion, he keeps you guessing, which is why people watch him. They want to see what's he gonna do next, what's he gonna say, so they can go, ooh, or oh, well, wait a minute, shit,
Right. A lot of people, especially a lot of professional wrestlers, I heard them say that. 1 second, guys. Mr. Herb Simmons says, "Good evening, gentlemen. Hope everyone is doing well." Mr. Herb, thank you for joining in, sir. We are doing great. Talking about MJF. MJF, going back to, I've heard so many people talk about kayfabe being dead, including professional wrestlers. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to argue with someone in the business and saying, "Oh no, you're wrong." But in my opinion, I get what they're saying. But at the same time, there are certain professional wrestlers that are at least trying to revive kayfabe, and MJF's one of them. That the whole storyline between MJF and Tony Khan, with MJF saying that he's leaving, his contract is up. Right, and he cut one of his best promos, telling Tony Khan to basically kiss his fucking ass on live TV, and then he left. And then there was the reports about that pay-per-view he's supposed to be on, that they didn't know if he's going to show up. Suppose he left, he was facing Warlow, and there was all that shit happening, and we didn't know if it was real or not, if this was legit or if this was part of a storyline. But MJF kept you guessing because for months you didn't see MJF. And I watched an interview with him, and he talked about that. And during that entire time, he never left his house. He worked out at his house. He stayed hid from the public because he wanted people not to know what the fuck is going on. That's MJF. And that's what I love about MJF, is the fact that, he's definitely a throwback when it comes to kayfabe. He is trying to in many ways keep a lost art alive. Robbie, agree? Disagree?
No, I agree. I mean, but he's like one of the very few that are pulling it off.
Yeah.
I mean, like where you have a couple other guys, well, let's say like Ricochet, whatever.
Right.
That he walks that fine line, but he doesn't cross it.
Let me tell you the difference between MJF and Ricochet.
Ricochet is an idiot.
And well, no. I'm not. Again, I'm not going to go there. In my opinion, this is the difference between the two. MJF, Ricochet has shown so many times that the real Ricochet is such a nice person. He's shown that. MJF has always shown that he's a fucking asshole. Even when he's a babyface, he is an asshole. So when Ricochet does things like he just did, that was controversial. you knew that it was bullshit. That's not really Ricochet, you know. That's not who he is. So it just, I that's why I think it offended more than it entertained. Versus MJF, I've heard MJF is nice per other professional wrestlers, but I've never seen it. So I think that's a big difference. Grizzle.
Well, yeah, no. I've heard a lot of the times he's a good guy to work with and everything too. But like I said, he keeps that character thing. Occasionally, you'll see something like we saw that video with him and Seth Rollins. They were obviously kind of, talking and joining each other's company for a second. Same thing when he did John Cena at the Iron Claw premiere. There are times where we will see, the real person and all that. So.
Right. Mr. Herb says, just because the toothpaste is out of the tube, don't mean we need to keep squeezing it. I respect those attempting to keep kayfabe alive. Look, I agree so wholeheartedly with that. I've said this many times that a lot of stuff that WWE has done with the show that they do on Netflix, I wasn't going to watch it, and then I heard that it's not really letting the cat out of the bag too much because it's all stuff that we've already seen happen. That's why I watched it. But yeah, I always say I love magic tricks. I don't want to know the secrets. I want to keep believing that magic is real. Robbie?
Yeah, but see, I have to disagree with whoever said that with Unreal from WWE. Mm-hmm. Even though we know what it was like, and you saw, but once you went backstage, now you exposed everything.
Right. Well, they were talking about the storyline aspect of it. Like, they didn't give away future storylines or what was happening.
No,
stuff, and I get what you're saying, but compared to how much they have really pulled the curtains back, to me, that is tame.
But still, you still see it. Okay, say me and Grizzled Vet are in this heated feud. Mm-hmm. And now we go out, we beat the hell out of each other, and we're in the middle of the ring saying, I can't stand you, I hate you, this, that. Now, after we've got done with this feud and everything, and the match is all said and done, now they're in the back and they're showing me and Vet hugging and saying, hey, we pulled this off and stuff. So, yeah, you're pulling the curtain back on that stuff, And I mean, granted, it's out there because of social media and everything like that, but still, you don't need to kind of feed into it. I mean, we all know why they're doing these shows. It's money.
Right. And I agree. I mean, look, whenever I read your book and you told Bob Cook that Evil Knievel sucked or whatever you said to him, you guys got to fight the way you put it in the book. I thought it was real. I thought it was a legit fight. And then you fucking ruined it for me by saying, no, it was real. Grizzled, I mean, do you agree? Do you think that curtain is pulled back so much so that, can we ever get professional wrestling back to where it once was with kayfabe, Grizzled?
No, absolutely not. The world of social media has opened that up way too much. People know where to find it. If they want to see the backstage stuff, they know where to go and find it. As far as Unreal goes, I agree with Robbie to a point where it does show a little too much, but I also know what you're saying is they're showing stuff that we've already seen.
Right.
They did they did the episode with the knee injury with Seth Rollins and SummerSlam and the Saturday Night's Main Event. Okay, but we already knew that was you think we already knew that he played it, so they just kind of showed us how they did it. Right. And what the reaction was at the time it happened. So I don't mind the show. In fact, I think it actually got nominated for like 3 sports awards or something here.
Did it really?
For documentary. Yeah, for documentary, whatever stuff. So I don't mind it. Now, if they started to kind of expose things that we didn't know or haven't seen, then I might have a little more of an issue. But the fact that it's, talking about SummerSlam of last year and the show came out in January, okay, we already knew what happened.
Right.
Now we're just kind of seeing how they put it together, which maybe the fans don't need to know that. But for me, I find it kind of interesting.
Yeah. Mr. Herb says, we all like The Wizard of Oz and know who was behind the curtain. That doesn't mean we don't like it anymore. You were right, sir. I agree with you.
Right.
Before we get into the recap of Dynamite, let's talk a couple of things. Wrestling Fan Fest 4, guys. Check this out. I'm talking about Iceman, King Parson, American Giant, Nikita Koloff and family, Spike Huber, Hervey Wimpleman, Paul Ellering, Dory the Clown. Huh?
Harvey Whippleman.
That's what I said, Harvey Wimpleman.
You said Hervey.
Oh, Harvey. I meant Harvey. Hervey. Jesus. Yep. Dory the Clown, Brooklyn Brawler, Powers of Pain, Doug Gilbert, Tommy Rich, Buff Bagwell, Demolition, D'Lo Brown, The Big Nasty, Gary Jackson, Brian Idol, Bobby Fulton, Mac Davis, Austin Idol, Miss Barbara Goodish, love Barbara, Dan Severn, Haku, JBL, McFoley. By the way, Mick Foley is doing his show on Friday night there. Cowboy Bob Martin, Kerry Martin, Rock Roll Express, Sonny from Glow, the original Sonny. Love Patricia. Baron Van Roschke, Teddy Long. Love Teddy, man. Him and Mac Davis had a whole conversation about my wife, which I thought was funny. Fucking Ricky Martin fucking hit on my wife right in front of me. But, you know, it's one of those things that it's Ricky Martin. I'm like, fuck yeah, hit on my wife. You know, it's like, yes. Harley Race's family, Andrew Anderson, Johnny Rods. I'm going to be there, plus many more guys. FanFest 4, May 8th and 9th. Get your tickets, sicw.org. I'm going to be there as well. And although
there's the selling point.
Look, I may not be on the list, but that doesn't mean that I don't want to meet you guys. Come say hello to me. I get a kick out of people who watch this little podcast. In Vegas, I couldn't believe it. I had 3 people come back for my autograph. I'm like, what? I mean, I'll sign it, but it's worthless.
Did you sign it?
No, absolutely I did. It was an honor. You know, it made me feel good at that point. I mean, you know, I'm not, you know, we don't have a shit ton of subscribers now, but, you know, definitely had fewer then. It was before I had you 2 on, which made the show great, actually. But you know, it's flattering. So please come say hello to me. I appreciate that. You know, we can talk wrestling and look, guys, what's great about FanFest is this. It was unlike anything I ever experienced before. We've not been to the con, whatever they call it, where, you know, you get to go pay out this money to meet all these people. You go there, you wait in line, you meet the people, and then it's done with. FanFest 4, you might be sitting down at the same bar with many of the legends you grew up watching. I know that happened to me. And what's great is you find out just how human these people are, because they'll talk to you. It was great. I made great friends, people that I kept in contact with to this very day. Again, sicw.org is where you're going to get your tickets at. And one other great selling point about this is, say you like me, you have a wife that loves being with you, but she doesn't like professional wrestling that much. FanFest is at a really nice hotel. So you go off, do your thing, and your spouse can go and watch TV or go grab a drink or whatever he or she may do, and they going to have a good time as well. My wife may not like professional wrestling that much, but she loves the social aspect of it. She loves Darla Staggs, who's going to be there, Miss Barbara Goodish. She became friends with them. She's so excited to see those people again. So again, sicw.org. Mr. Herb Simmons does a great job of putting this together. He says, it's like watching a new movie, going back to kayfabe. If you know the ending, would you go see it? Probably we would. He says, thank you, guys. We keep those memories alive. You know, Herb, and we'll get into the recap after this. My wife just said tonight, whenever I was reading her the list of people that was going to be there, I'm like, damn, every legend that I can think of from my youth is going to be there this year. And Chris was like, yeah, it's funny because Herb was just saying after last year he didn't know if he was going to do another Fan Fest. And not only did he do another one, as great as last year's was, this year seems like it's going to be even better. So, Herb, thank you so much for putting together these things. And also thank you for what you do with the Cauliflower Hour Club and with SICW, keeping professional wrestling alive in the indie scenes. We all appreciate it. Guys, let's talk some AEW Dynamite. I enjoyed last night's show. I really did. Grizzle, overall, without going too much into it, because we're going to go into it, what do you think about the show?
It was all right, but it was almost kind of backwards, if that makes sense.
Well, if you're talking about the first thing I said about the show in our group discussions that we have was, why would we have Kenny Omega and Swerve Strickland starting the show and have Darby Allin ending the show with
Roosh.
Yeah, with Roosh. Now, we'll get to that, though. We're going to talk about that. Robbie, your thoughts overall, man?
Wasn't one of my favorites.
Really? And I really enjoyed it. Let's get into it, man. we started right away, guys. By the way, it was in my backyard. It was in St. Paul, Minnesota. No, I did not go. And I'll tell you why I didn't go, believe it or not. Although I love going to the live events, when it comes to a show that I have to do a recap of, I actually prefer watching it from home and listen to the color commentary, even though it's Tony Schiavone. I really did. So that's why I was not there. Although at the last minute, I got an email from AEW. A couple of months ago, I sent them an email requesting Media Pass, and they wound up saying that was fine. And I forget to check my emails a lot, so I could have went and got a Media Pass, but I didn't. But I enjoyed it nonetheless. We started off really big. Kenny Omega versus Swerve Strickland. Man, when I see that it was these two guys started off the show, I'm like, holy shit, this must be a really big show tonight. They must have a lot of things planned to start off this big. Did it work out that way? Depends on your opinion. Again, I thought the show was great. I love this match, though. I thought this was a really, really good match. This was actually one of my favorite matches between the two. The last match they had was good. This one was better, in my opinion. Grizzle?
Oh, no, this was a great match, and it was a great opener. But for me, it was also the best match of the night.
Yes, it was.
This was, it was perfect. I mean, I loved, a little bit of a little twist at the end there. I was a little, I think I was expecting more of a Swerve victory than a Kenny Omega, but I'll take it. Right. But no, the match was good. The placement was odd, and this is what led to why I said it's kind of backwards, because the best match of the night was the first match of the show, so you only got one way to go.
Right. Yeah. But at the time, I agree. I didn't know it was going to be the best match of the night, though, until the entire show. Now, I have to add that this match was for the EVP status and the number one contender match. I'm going to be honest. If I was creative, Robbie, I would have went with Swerve Strickland winning. Now, by them not going with Swerve winning, I agree with Grizzled. I was surprised. So I like that aspect. I love that they surprised me, that I was wrong about the outcome, but that doesn't change the fact that I think it would have been a more interesting outcome for a storyline if it would have been Swerve Strickland winning, because where do you go with Swerve Strickland now? He has now lost all the big important matches since he's been back. He was going after that number one contendership, but he lost against Andrade. Once again, he was going after the number one contendership, but then he lost against Kenny Omega. So where do you go, now with Swerve Strickland? Your thoughts on the match and the outcome of the match?
They set the tone for me. You guys can disagree with me all you want on this one. Good match. I think the ending, and I didn't have a problem with Kenny Omega going over. I had a problem how he went over. You had Swerve, and you can disagree with me on this. Swerve hit him with every one of his moves, and Kenny Omega kicked out. Kenny, when he finally put him in the one-winged angel, he pinned him. And I went, bullshit. Now you just made Swerve look weak, and you made Kenny Omega look like Superman.
Right.
That's where I had the issue.
I agree. I actually agree with you because I always talk about this. You guys say, oh, it's professional wrestling. You're thinking too much. This goes back to what I'm saying, that now in order for MJF to be able to keep his title and beat Kenny Omega, he's going to have to kill Kenny Omega to keep him down. I love false finishers, but sometimes they go way too far. So I agree with you 100%. Actually, it's usually you guys that's telling me I'm thinking too much about that shit.
No, and I mean, I wouldn't have had a problem if Omega did the one-winged angel to him 3 times and 2 times Swerve kicked out. At least you gave him credibility. You just made him look weak when he got pinned the first time. You know, to me, that's my personal opinion. And now you kind of made him look weak on that.
Right.
You know?
Now, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, and you made Kenny look like Superman. I mean,
right. So the one winged angel, finisher is one of the most protected moves in professional wrestling. If I'm not mistaken, in Grizzled, you're the guy that could correct me if I'm wrong. But if my memory serves me correct, I think there's only been one person to kick out of Kenny Omega's finisher when he uses that as his finisher. Grizzled, your thoughts on what Robbie said, and even what I said about, you know, he's right, and this is the type of stuff that I usually talk about, that now you're going to have MJF damn near kill Kenny Omega for him to keep his title, because either one of two things will happen if you don't. Number one, if MJF is able to pin Kenny Omega with just 1 or 2 of his move, the heat-seeking missile, then that means that's going to make Swerve's finishers and all Swerve moves look very weak. Or number 2, again, you're going to have MJF just absolutely kill Kenny Omega in order to be able to pin him. Your thoughts on all that, Grizzle?
Well, I agree with Robbie. The finish was not. Okay, yeah, because one finisher from Kenny Omega. I'm not saying one windy, whatever. And Swerve was finished, but for some reason, like you said, the one-winged angel is a very protected finisher. As far as I know, and I could be wrong, I might see more in Japan. I believe Okada is like the only one who's kicked out of it. You know, but also Okada went an hour and 11 minutes with him, so you know, Jesus. But no, I think it's a very protected finisher. I don't know why. It does kind of makes Swerve look weak that he lost the one finisher, but you could say that, well, you know, they had all the stuff that had happened before, and this was just kind of the final nail in the coffin. But on the flip side of that coin, Kenny Omega went through just as much and still kicked out everything. Right,
but I mean, Kenny took, I don't know what they called it, but where it was like the reverse pile driver, and Kenny took 2 of those and kicked out of both of them.
Oh, and I agree with you. I agree with you.
No, I mean, so now that's supposed to be a devastating move, and he kicked out of 2 of them. So, you know, it made no sense, you know?
Yeah. The one-winged angel is a very protected move for some reason.
Yeah. Yep. Guys, next we go to Will Ospreay, who addresses Jon Moxley. Very intense segment with Will Ospreay. I like this out of Will Ospreay. I really do. You know, Will Ospreay is one of my favorite wrestlers in AEW. And when he cuts his normal promos, you know, bruv this, bruv that, and just that nice guy, I don't know. It comes across as cheesy. This promo really kind of sold the storyline for myself because it showed the seriousness that Will Ospreay has in regards to Jon Moxley trying to end his career, talking about his neck injury and with that surgery. Grizzle, your thoughts on this?
I thought it was a good promo. I enjoyed it. Like you said, it come across more of a serious promo. You did this in front of, my fans, my family, my mom, and he's very serious about him doing it in front of his mom. He was very upset about that one.
Yep. And he's dead, motherfucker.
Yeah. It does play out. I enjoyed the promo. I like a little more serious Ospreay than the usual, like you said, bruv, and whatever, and all that. So no, I had no issue with this promo. If anything, I wish they might take a little bit longer to build this up. And he's chasing Moxley. Moxley's like, no, I'm not going to do it. But no, they're going straight into the next pay-per-view on the 12th, right before Mania.
Right.
So they're going to this in like 2 weeks. I would have given it a chance for this to simmer a little bit myself.
Look, normally I would agree with you about a longer storyline. WWE usually has great long storylines, although they get ridiculous at times. The problem for me with AEW and their storylines that are slow build and they're take a little longer is it seems like creative, whoever those people are, gets lost in the story if they try to do a slow burn. It starts to get ridiculous and not make sense. So I agree with what you're saying on one hand, but on the other hand, because it's AEW, I don't think they've mastered long-term storytelling.
Right.
I will always, I've said this, and I will always say this, at least for now. I watch AEW because I think they have better matches than WWE as far as performing in the ring. I watch WWE because they tell better stories than AEW. Go ahead, Grizzle.
Well, like I said, I'm agreeing with you. If it goes too long, they get lost. But I want more than just 2 weeks. Right. He came back, he said this, and now it's like, okay, you're getting your rematch. Yeah. You're getting your match, whatever. I'm pretty sure Ospreay is gonna come on top of this one. This will be what takes the title away from Moxley, but a little faster. But no, the promo was fine. Yeah.
Now, Robbie, they also did a video package featuring Will Ospreay reflecting on his history with Ron Moxley at All Out. Ospreay officially challenged Moxley to a match at AEW Dynasty, motherfucker, as he said, and announced he will face Pac next week. I'm going to be completely 100% real. I am more excited about this match with Pac or Pac, whatever you guys call him, than I am with this match between him and Moxley at Dynasty. What about you?
Yeah, I think because Pac's more athletic than Moxley. So, I think it'll be a better match because they match up better. Right. I just think Pac's more of a, more athletic, does more than what Moxley does. So, yeah, I think it'll, be a better match.
Yeah. Now, do you agree with Grizzled and even for myself that, it would be better if it was a little bit longer of a storyline, but AEW doesn't know how to do long-term storylines?
Yeah, no, totally agree. But do you also think that they're they rush this because it's in a couple weeks? They're trying to get one leg up on WrestleMania?
Yeah, maybe. I personally, if I was AEW, I would have actually done this pay-per-view after WrestleMania, to be honest with you. I know that WrestleMania is free, but at the same time, WrestleMania is so big that I think there's so much focus on WWE that doing a pay-per-view right before WrestleMania, I don't know. I just don't think that's smart timing, Grizzle.
Yeah, when I realized it was April 12th, that kind of threw me off a little bit. I would have waited, even not even be in April, maybe waited till May. to do
Right.
it, not even the week after. Give it some time, but because everybody's, and the problem is everybody's going to be comparing.
Well,
Tony
that
Khan's going to
and
be first,
right.
and then
Well,
next
it's
week
not-
everybody's going to be like, oh well,
right.
This is far better than what Tony Khan did last week.
Right.
Yada,
Well,
yada, yada.
it's not just that, it's okay. So now, for especially us guys who have families, I'm gonna tell my wife, okay, well, we're gonna be watching AEW pay-per-view this weekend. Next weekend, it's the whole entire weekend. You know what I'm saying? I just, and it's not just married people. I mean, wrestling
And you're
fans
doing
who actually
recaps
have
afterwards.
lives. What's that?
I said, and you're going to be doing recaps afterwards.
Yeah. But even wrestling fans that, have lives, it's like, really, do I want to give up 2 weekends to watch professional wrestling? Robbie?
No, I totally agree. I mean, it's, you think about how many of our wives really like wrestling. I mean, they tolerate it, so now you're kind of pushing the envelope and stuff. But yes, you do have a life, and you're like, okay, now I'm going to take up my Saturday. Now next week I'm going to take up Saturday and Sunday, and
Right.
Yeah.
Guys, next we move on to actually match number 2, the Death Riders versus Tough Flight and Zeta Steel in a mixed trios match. I got to meet Top Flight a couple of months ago. Very, very, very nice 2 young men. They really are. They're right here from Minnesota, so they absolutely got a pop. It's too bad that I would have liked them see. I would to have liked see Top Flight actually win here in Minnesota. But you knew they were. I mean, they're going against Death Riders. There was no way that they were going to allow Top Flight to go over. Zeta Steel, man. I actually like her. I think she's one of the better women professional wrestlers in AEW. Robbie, your thought on the match and your thought of Zeta Steel, because she's someone that we've not seen a whole lot of just yet with AEW.
No, match was okay. But they could have put Top Flight over. You'd have put him over Garcia.
Right.
Garcia's not. I mean, your 2 weak links are Garcia and Wheeler Yuta. So you wouldn't have. You could have put those kids over in their backyard, had a bigger pop, and just put them over Garcia.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's good. She's not. Like the few times I've seen her, she's done pretty well.
Yeah. Vet, do you think that it would have hurt Death Riders by having Top Flight go over?
I don't think so, but in the aspect of, they got to set Moxley up to go into that match with Ospreay. Obviously, they're going to go with the Death Riders on the win. I don't think a loss would have hurt them. Yeah. My thing with Top Flight, though, they're talented kids, but they just can't get off the runway. Flight runway. They just can't get off it because of all the injuries. Darius has been hurt. Dante's been hurt, and it just keeps grounding them. So they're almost like, when they went out, it was obvious that they were kind of going to be losing the match, because Top Flight's just kind of the team they feed to people now, because they tried to push him, but like I said, all those injuries just can't put him in. And it was when they said mixed trios, and I'm like, oh, okay, Marina. And then I'm like, I didn't know who Zeta Steel was. I'm like, who is she? I don't think if I have seen her, I don't recall her. I didn't know who she was, which even made it more of a, okay, Death Riders are going to win because they're just throwing 3 here. Feed them to the wolves.
Right.
Which is bad considering what the matches we just had before that.
Let's go back real quick to – go ahead, Robbie.
Okay, but she has been on because she's like a new part of that.
Yeah.
She comes out with them. So she has been on for the last couple of weeks?
Like I said, I didn't recall her. I don't know if maybe I've seen her, just hadn't paid
but
attention
here's
or
the
what.
thing, and I know what you were saying, that, like with Moxley going for this thing in 2 weeks, but the pin would have been on Garcia, so it had nothing to do with Moxley at all because Garcia got pinned.
Right, yeah, but it's still, they would probably find some way to make it shadow Moxley or whatever, or he would have done something stupid and said something.
Let's go back real quick to the Moxley Will Ospreay feud. One issue, one element that I feel like AEW's lost is they're still pushing Moxley as the face. And Death Riders are still a heel team. Now, obviously, Ospreay is going to get the fans behind them over Moxley, as we seen last night. But I don't know, man. This is the part with AEW that I get frustrated with. It's like they try to do two things at once that just can't be done. You mentioned that you thought that Ospreay was going to win and take the title. I'm really hoping that the storyline between these two will be Ospreay taking the title away from Moxley, which will then finally cause the Death Riders, the rest of them, to turn on Moxley for losing that title. Then finally getting that feud between Moxley and whomever. I have a feeling it's going to be Claudio of the Death Riders. Or are we just going to continuously have a fashion that is, well, the guys are bad, but their leaders are a good guy? Go with you, Grizzle.
I don't know what they're doing with Moxley. And you said two things. Okay, now he's got a thing with Ospreay. Aren't they still like having their issues with the Don Callis family?
They are, but when I say two things at once, I mean having a guy that's a baby face leading a fashion that is heels.
Right. But when they face the Don Callis family, they're not the heels. That's the Don Callis family.
Yeah.
It's all, there's just too many.
Except for Yuta. Fans don't like Yuta.
Well, that's because Yuta's just kind of a, I don't know. But anyways, it's odd because depending on who they face is depending on what the fans think of the Death Riders.
Right.
Not just Moxley, but the entire group.
Yeah. Robbie, I mean, is it, for me, it takes away from the storyline from John Moxley and Ospreay. It really does, because it's like, how are we supposed to feel about John Moxley? Are we supposed to be booing this guy, or like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, but even the fans, though, they, they're cheering him and stuff. So, even the fans, I think the fans don't even know whether he's a good guy or a bad guy,
Yeah. Yeah. Next, guys, we go to a Young Bucks promo. The Young Bucks, the Young Bucks boasted about reclaiming the tag team titles at Revolution and declared their goal of becoming a 4-time champions. I mean, that they're wanting these titles back. I honestly thought that by them walking out of the ring last week with Edge and Christian, that was them kind of saying, okay, we're out of the title picture for now. I don't know. But I can tell you that as much as I like the Young Bucks, I really don't care. I hope they don't interject the Young Bucks into the storyline between Edge and Christian and FTR more than what they already have. In other words, I don't want to see that fatal, 9-man tag team for the titles. Robbie?
No, I totally agree. So, yeah, I mean, you hope they don't, or try to come up with something else, another whatever, But yeah, I don't want to see it.
Yeah. Grizzle, do you agree, or do you think no, this will actually enhance that storyline between the Young Bucks and FTR?
No. Over in WWE have Charlotte Flair, and they just kind of shoehorn her into wherever they need her to go. That's what AEW does with the Young Bucks.
Right.
They got a storyline. Okay, we want people to see the Young Bucks. We're just gonna squeeze them in there somehow.
Right.
And it doesn't work. I'm tired of the Young Bucks. I'm surprised they went away. They didn't win the match last week at the pay-per-view.
Yep.
But when I saw the return, okay, that explained it.
Right.
So I got more out of it out that one. But the Young Bucks, no, I mean, I hope they don't interject into it. Somehow they're gonna get shoehorned into this. And I'm sure it'll be Edge and Cope and Christian versus the Young Bucks at some point. And then they might shoehorn in FTR into it to make that the 3-way. Right. But I'm pretty sure at Revolution or was it Dynasty? Dynasty. That it'll be just the two. which it's kind of a weird storyline in that aspect anyway, because we'll talk about that.
Right. After this, we go Cope and Christian. Renee Paquette interviewed them both. Cope made it clear that he tends to end FTR's career. Christian Cage added that they are coming for the tag team titles. Now, I predicted a few months ago that Edge and Christian would be coming back together against FTR, and that they're going to end their careers at the same time, Edge and Christian. So, and I think that's what's going to happen. I think some way, somehow, this is how I think it's going to go down. I'm predicting that Edge and Christian will win the titles. And the next pay-per-view, it's going to be titles versus careers. No, I'm sorry. FTR is going to win or going to retain their titles. And then at the next pay-per-view, Edge and Christian is going to want a rematch, a shot for the titles again, and FTR is going to say, that's fine, but only if you put up your careers. That's what I think this storyline is headed. Robbie?
I could see it going that way. Just because I think Christian and Cope are nearing the end. I think just because the injuries and everything else that, they've got to be coming close to the end. Yeah. So I could see something like that.
Grizzle?
I could see it. I mean, it makes sense. They got to do some big thing for it because, I think this is probably the last run for Cope and Christian. I could see that. I still say they're probably going to get the belts at the pay-per-view, though. That's just
maybe, but I think, especially against FTR, because they both have a very close relationship, from what I understand, with FTR. So what better team for them to pick for their last match than FTR?
Yeah. One thing about this promo, though, that kind of threw me off, and it's because my ear picked it up, and I hate it. Earlier today, Renee Paquette sat down with Cope and Christian and whatever. And then they just go and they're just backstage.
Right.
He's not sitting down. You went live to a or not live, but I'm like, where's the sit down? This is just a backstage interview that we see repeatedly. But that odd earlier today, Renee Paquette, which to me, I'm like, oh, okay, a little more serious. We're going to hear something. And then we just go and get the basic promo with Christian saying, and worse than that, you did it to me. And then he walks away and Edge is like, you really is an asshole, which it was comical. They sent it back. You're thinking, okay, you're going to get a serious sit-down interview, and we just got a backstage segment with comedy.
Right. Well, I do want to applaud creative, or maybe I shouldn't. I don't know if this is creative or this is Christian, but one thing that I was concerned about was when Edge and Christian came back, we were going to get that WWE version of Christian because he's a babyface. I love the fact that, nope, we're still getting that asshole Christian, except now, though, his anger and his assholeness is aimed more at, the heel guys. So I really like the fact that they just let Christian be, because I think that for myself, this run in AEW has been Christian's best, even over his run in TNA. I've never been a big fan of Christian at WWE. I've always preferred the TNA Christian, but I think this version is even better. Grizzle?
I like Christian in WWE, actually. ENC was like a great tag team, to be honest with you, man. I mean, who didn't like that team?
He's just, I don't know. I think in many ways,
that aside, if you compare TNA to AEW, I prefer the Christian Cage in TNA over what he's doing in AEW. I don't like the turtleneck and the blazer and I'm an asshole and the shit
He's
he
just
did
so much
with,
more entertaining, in my opinion.
you know, what he did with Mama Wayne and Nick Wayne, and
That was great.
I don't know. I wasn't, you know, I'm your father, you know.
I thought it was great. It was so funny. The shit he was saying. There was more. Oh my God, I can't believe you said that moments with Christian and AEW as a heel than there's ever been in his entire career, in my opinion.
I wasn't a fan of the patriarchy where he's the mother and Mama Wayne and Nick Wayne, and you know, and I'm not saying I knew him well, but I had many a chance to talk with Nick Wayne's dad and all that. So, and he would have loved the storyline. I'll tell you that right now. He would have loved it. But I'm just saying, to compare the two, I prefer the TNA Christian Cage over the AEW, but I'm still a WWE Christian guy.
Yeah, Robbie, what about you, man?
I didn't watch much TNA, so I can't compare them from AEW to that. So I can compare them to the WWE one, I'll say. And I like this version better than, you know, I mean, they were a good tag team in WWE, and some of their battles that they had with Dudleys and Hardys and stuff were great, but I like them better here in AEW.
Yeah. Speaking of, guys, I want to post something out. That I also thought was kind of, let's see if I can find it. So, Ronda Rousey, by the way, came out and she said this about AEW Revolution. She said her Revolution appearance was partly a jab at TKO Group Holdings, calling it a cool little bit of a fuck you, while being drawn to AEW as a less restrictive, more adult version of AEW, of WWE. That sounds like a good time. You know, what I found interesting is both fan bases, AEW and WWE, they're not saying a whole lot of nice stuff about Ronda Rousey, Robbie. Now, she's also said that she won't be really doing much with, you know, in AEW. So if that's true, I don't understand, with the exception of her just making an appearance just to promote the fight that she's going to lose that's coming up. Why even waste your time and money for her to show up? Because it's not like it was advertised that she was going to be there. She even said, "It's, you know, she doesn't understand. You know, people are upset. It's not like they, you know, created a whole bunch of, you know, the ratings went up or anything." Your thoughts on, you know, what she said, and, you know, that she's not really over with the wrestling fans?
She seems like she's bitter, you know, and I don't understand how you can be bitter, because you know she's definitely made money in WWE.
Yeah.
So, you know, why would you do that? You know, I don't understand it. I mean, it was funny because I was talking to a buddy the other day and we were talking about it, and I said, you've never seen any of the other guys that came from MMA and that have wrestled. So you take like your Ken Shamrocks and your whoever that, you know, there's been others that have come over, and when their career was done and stuff, nobody's ever went and badmouth, no matter whatever they went through. They never badmouth Vince or the company, because they all know, okay, we made our money and we got paid well for it. You know, where I just don't understand why you would badmouth it, because you got paid well. You definitely know that when they brought her in WWE, they had it. She probably had to have a great contract.
Right. Grizzled, I know you're a Rousey fan. You think she's going to win this fight, man, but, you know, that's neither here or there. What do you think about, you know, with the same question, fans' reaction to her, both sides of the aisle?
As far as wrestling goes, Ronda has become extremely bitter. And I'm like Robbie, I'm not sure why. She got paid well. But she kind of became bitter towards it, especially this last run she had. So, yeah, no, why is she there in AEW? It's obviously to promote the fight. If you listen to Jim Cornette talk about it on his recent podcast, he doesn't think anything of her in AEW as far as like wrestling is going to happen until after the fight, because they're not going to risk her getting injured for that fight.
Right.
And as far as the fight goes, you can go fuck yourself. You know, I got a crisp $10 bill that says Ronda Rousey is going to take that fight.
You're gonna lose that $10 bill.
You want to do it? You want to do it?
No, you're gonna lose it. Nope, not betting guy.
Oh, come on!
Not betting guy.
Yeah,
I don't bet, but
you're gonna lose.
Nope, I don't. Look, now we all know that this is a Jake Paul thing.
Oh,
right?
It's totally an exhibition. Yes.
So this, so it's a matter of who's deciding they're going to take the loss. This match is already predetermined. It is,
and it's predetermined that Carano is gonna get knocked the fuck out.
And that's the only way she's going to win is if it's predetermined. Next, guys, we go to Speedball Mike Bailey versus Rocky Romero. Decent match. I like Rocky Romero. Yeah, I mean, it was what it was, Robbie.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a bad. It was okay match. It was all right.
Yeah, Grizzle.
I'll be honest with you. I was getting kids ready for school this morning, and I didn't even realize this match had happened. I looked up. I'm going, oh, there was a match. Okay, it was very quick.
It lasted at least good 5-6 minutes, I think.
Okay, well, I was busy at the time, so I didn't even. I saw the promo. I saw the segment he did with Kenny Omega. I saw that. I didn't even realize they had a match on this one. So
it's hard to find good help. It really is so hard to find good help.
I can't say here nor there on this one. I will fully admit I was playing dad for a few minutes on that one.
Yeah. Next, we go to MJF and Kenny Omega's confrontation. I liked it. I find it a little silly. Kenny Omega's talking about how even in his worst bad guyness, which I found it weird that, talk about kayfabe, being dead, my worst bad guyness. He said that he never put himself on a pedestal to look down onto others, but he is a god. If MJF's gonna be the devil, then he's a god. And I'm like, so now you just put yourself on that pedestal. You're just doing exactly what you said you never did. Got it. But yeah, I thought it was decent. I'm not going to say that it was one of the best promo battles, I guess, if you will, that we've seen MJF in. I don't think Kenny Omega is the greatest on the mic, but it was entertaining. It held my attention, Grizzle.
I'll give you entertaining. I loved MJF beforehand. Never, ever, just going around the ring about that with the Hangman Page, and I'm kind of curious to see where they're going to go with that one too. So.
Let me real quick. What did you think about when MJF absolutely mocked The Rock during that promo?
That was entertaining as well. It's what MJF does best.
Right.
The promo was decent. I'm like you. I'm not a fan of Kenny Omega's promos.
Right.
And I think part of it is once again, I reference Jim Cornette.
Right.
Kenny's very breathy when he talks. It doesn't sound like a man behind that voice. He's very eloquent. I don't get into Kenny Omega promos. Now, wrestling wise, I mean, well, yeah, the man can put himself on a pedestal because I cannot fucking talk tonight. Pedestal. He can put himself up on a pedestal because honestly, he's probably one of the top 10 wrestlers out there right now. I mean, Kenny Omega's that, maybe even top 5. He's that fucking good. Right. He can put himself on a pedestal. And like you said, he says, I've never done that, but if you're the devil, then I'll be the god. And okay, we'll play a devil versus god, whatever, whichever. But yeah, no, I'm not on a pedestal, but I'll put myself up there.
Right. Robbie, Kenny Omega also came kind of across like a crybaby, if you think about it, because he talked about that I didn't beat Swerve the first time because, well, I wasn't 100%. And he said the last time that him and Max faced off, he was also not at 100%. But now he's almost at 100%. So he's coming up with reasons or excuses. And what I found interesting, I thought about this a bit. So you're telling the world champ that on one hand you could beat him, but it took you 2 times to even beat Swerve. This isn't a 2-time thing. Either you beat MJF the first time or you don't. So again, he came across as being a little whiny baby-ish with excuses to me, Robbie.
I like part of this segment.
Mm-hmm.
I could have done without Kenny Omega coming out and talking on the mic. I would have rather just let MJF do the whole thing. I would have been totally happy with it. I'm going to put Kenny Omega with John Moxley on the mic. They're both brutal. They're both brutal to listen to. And it's like, thank God for I can say this about Omega. I won't put Moxley in that group, but Omega's a way better wrestler than he is on the mic. I won't put Moxley in there. But I just thought he was brutal on the mic. But yeah, saying, oh, it wasn't 100%, you say this. I mean, take it in any sport, wrestling, especially wrestling and stuff like that, and MMA and all that. Who is 100%? I mean, you're, night, especially, AEW, they may not be night in, night out, but you're wrestling, you're working out and stuff. You got to be having little nagging injuries and this hurts, that hurts. Nobody's ever 100%.
Yeah. Nonetheless, we're going to have that match at Dynasty. Grizzle, who do you think is going to walk away with that title? Do you think MJF's keeping it?
I'd like to see MJF walk away with it. I don't want to see Kenny Omega get it right now. I'd like to see MJF walk away with it and retain it.
Yeah,
because I think there's other matches we could see MJF in. I still want Swerve to get his shot at some point, but they might have killed any momentum that had going.
Well, let's talk about that because you guys didn't answer that. One of the questions that you guys didn't answer. Where do you think they're going with Swerve at this point? Because again, every opportunity he had to be that next guy in line for that match for the title, they've had other people go over. So where do you guys think he's going? What are they going to do next? I pray that I have a feeling that it's going to be Hangman Adam Page, Grizzle.
You think so? Yeah.
And I hope not. And I'm not saying that it wasn't one hell of a storyline, one hell of a match, but it's done with.
But they got to have a reason to get Hangman Page back in the store because he's not going to never face the world champ again. Right. We all know that's not going to happen. I hope they don't change it that quickly.
Yeah. Honestly, what I was kind of expecting last night? And I thought it'd been interesting. Because we know that Swerve and Hangman became really close, good buddies. And then Swerve turned heel. I think it would have been interesting last night if they would have made Swerve the EVP. And that was the loophole. Swerve, for whatever reason, even though I know Swerve was going for the title himself, but for whatever reason, he put Hangman on Page back in that title run at some point with that storyline with Hangman being heel. To me, that was been the perfect, way to do it. But I agree with you. There's no way that Hangman is going to never go for that title again. But I'm afraid that, again, this is what's going to be next for Swerve. Robbie, is this something you want to see again?
No, I don't want to see Hangman and Swerve again. I mean, what are they going to do next? I mean, what can you do next? Right. You've done everything in their feud. What are we going to do now? You just there. I mean, you have to think, what are they going to do? What can we do to top what we did?
Right. Guys, next we go to the FTR interview. Renee Paquette interviewed FTR about Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. FTR stated they refuse to live in anyone's shadow and plan to end Copeland and Cage's championship aspirations at Dynasty. Typical FTR interview. I mean, Robbie?
Yeah, no.
Grizzle?
Yeah, it was a typical. There was nothing,
Right. The next match, the War Dogs versus the Conglomeration. David Finlay and Clark Connors battled Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong in a physical tag team contest. Of course, the War Dogs secured the win. It was an okay match. they announced that Roderick Strong is officially in the conglomeration. I didn't want to hear that. To me, that means that they're not going to be doing much with him, in my opinion. Robbie?
Yeah, no, I mean, match was okay. But yeah, I don't think they know how to use them.
Yeah. Grizzled?
It was an all right match. Decent. I don't understand the whole when Orange Cassidy got at the beginning in his entrance or whatever it was that came out and attacked him for some weird reason.
I don't know.
But
Next, guys, we go with Kyle Fletcher and the Don Callis family. Kyle Fletcher addresses his undefeated singles streak in 2026 and declared himself the next world title challenger. He even called out MJF and said, "You can't say that about being undefeated." And then he calls out Takeshita, not called out in a bad way, but don't want to talk to him, and said, hey, we're still friends, buddy. And they seem to be okay. I still think that Takeshita is the Don Callis family is going to turn on Takeshita. At least I hope so, because I want to see Takeshita just singles run as a babyface. Grizzle, your thought about this?
I'm with you. I think you need to have a singles run. Kyle Fletcher versus MJF, that would be an amazing title match. I would love to see that.
Right.
And didn't you love that video that I posted?
Yes, I was about to say
even
that.
Kyle Fletcher doesn't know how many people are in the damn Don Callis family.
Yep. Robbie. I don't know, man. Was this saying Takeshita is solid with Don Callis family now, or no?
No, but I'm gonna bring up something here now. So you're gonna wonder. I'm wondering who's coming out of the Don Callis family, because you're seeing Kyle Fletcher complaining about Don taking money to help MJF, and
don't go where you're going to yet, because we're gonna get there.
Okay, so you know where I was going,
yes.
Right? Okay,
yes.
So I won't go there then. But
yep.
I mean, we'd like to see Takeshita get out and see him on a singles run. Right. But there's a possibility of 3 people getting taken out of that Don Callis family.
Yep, but we're good there.
Okay, that's why I'm not going there.
We'll go AEW's World Women's Champion, Tekla versus Mina Shirakawa. Look, I'm normally not a fan.
I can't say pedestal, but I can say Shirakawa. Okay.
I am normally not a fan of Shirakawa in her matches. Last night, she was working stiff. She got some good shots in. I actually enjoyed this match last night. I think this is one of her better matches, in my opinion. Robbie, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not a Tekla fan.
Right.
But I actually enjoyed Tekla. If you watch, there was like that move Marina did where she pulls herself over and does like a corkscrew. I mean, she definitely misjudged that, because she landed hard on Tekla's legs, on her quads. I was like, wow, you misjudged that one. Match I liked the match. Like I said, I'm not a big Tekla fan, but I actually thought Tekla did really well. So
now this is where I got a little bit critique. Yeah. So we've seen Tekla now busting out the brass knuckles. Now we know that in WWE, Logan Paul, that's his thing. Grizzled, do you think that if one company is using something like the brass knuckles, that another company like AEW, maybe we should go with something else and not those brass knucks, because Logan Paul is using it, and that's too, it seems too much like we're trying to mirror them, except we're using a woman instead. Or, nah, man, it's fine. 2 different companies, 2 different people.
I don't think you want to have them using the knuckles just because people are going to say, oh, she's using them just like Logan Paul, and they're just going to put eyes over on WWE and what Logan Paul is doing.
Right.
And unfortunately, now, can they both do them? Yes. Is there a reason why they can't do them? No. But the fans are going to go, oh, she's using them just like Logan Paul. that's just the unfortunate that's going to happen in this situation.
Right. Now, of course, Tekla did win, retaining her World Championship. But, Robbie, I'll ask you the same question. Back whenever you were wrestling, man, did you ever think about, I want to do this, but the guys in WWF or the guys in Florida Championship Wrestling, someone else is doing it. So because of that, I'm going to stay away from it, even though I'm in a completely different company.
No, I mean, everybody takes everything. I mean, everybody uses everybody. You take people's moves and stuff like that. So you're, like, of course, you do stuff in the indies, like, and you might even have got the idea from them and used it. You just kind of hope that you pulled it off when you did it. And you kind of hope like people didn't compare you, but I think different generation, different eras. So, different. The social media wasn't a big thing when we were,
right.
When I was wrestling.
Right.
You were wrestling. There wasn't social media. It's not. It wasn't a big thing. It didn't fucking exist.
We go to the main event. No count out match.
Where was the weird promo?
Which one?
I remember a promo. It was Kenny Omega talking to Speedball Mike Bailey, and they shook hands.
I don't know why I don't have that down. Yeah. So Mike Bailey, Speed Bailey, and Kenny Omega. Speedball came in on a promo Kenny Omega was doing with Renee, an interview. And Mike Speedball Bailey said, basically, hope you win. And if you do, I basically want to be able to have a match with that title. But it was just this weird, awkward way that it was done. I agree. Maybe that's why I didn't even want to remember it, because this is probably the worst interview segment of the night.
Well, yeah, and then it ended with the odd handshake where you actually have Omega going, stop shaking my hand.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. It was weird. Robbie?
Yeah, no. You could have done without that.
Next, again, the main event. No count out match. Darby Allin versus Roosh. Look. This good match. It was. There was your typical Darby Allin bumps. There was a couple of holy shit bumps in there. One, I think it was a spear or a shoulder check, something that Roosh hit Darby with that sent him flying out the ring. And he landed. It was a nasty landing. I'm like, holy shit, is he alive? It was a good match. I enjoyed it. It was your typical Darby Allin match. Should it be the main event? I don't think so. Could this have been a good match to open it? Yes. Main event? Nope. After the match, we had, by the way, Darby Allin did win the match. After the match, the Don Callis family attacked Darby on the ramp. Mark Davis delivered a power driver as Lance Archer, Rocky Romero, and Trip Beretta stood over him. I think the big thing with this was the fact that Andrade refused to participate, questioning again for the second time why the hell with MJF, because he wants that title match. This is going to what you were saying, Robbie, I think. Who's going to leave? Look, I'm going to be honest with you. I think they're going to make a huge mistake by having Andrade leave the Don Callis family and put him a babyface, because we've seen this with AEW. Okay, we've even seen it with WWE. I think this is the most I remember fans actually being behind Andrade since I've known him in professional wrestling. He's hot right now. He is. And because of that, I think they should just leash it alone. Let him ride it. See what happens. I think taking him out and trying to turn him into an official babyface, wrong move, in my opinion. Robbie, I'm going to come to you last because you're the one that officially brought it up.
Okay.
Grizzle, your thoughts on that, man?
Well, as far as the match goes, it was an okay match. I wasn't that impressed. I'm glad that I was mistaken though, and it was Roosh, not Leo Rush, because
Right.
that little fucker is just creepy as I don't get that shit. I can't wait till we can recap something he fucking does. It's weird. It's like a little golem in the ring or something, you know. Yeah. But match was just chance for Darby to do his shit that he does. This played into what I said by backwards. If this had been the opener, then the middle of the rest of the show would have been building up to Swerve and would have been a great show. But instead, they started with it, and you couldn't build up from that, so it just steadily trickled back into the, and then went boom, and it dropped.
Yep. I think the reason why they did that, I understand why they did the way they did. I think that they did this with the whole Don Callis thing after the post-match to leave fans saying, oh, what's going to happen next week after this attack? I want to tune in, but they failed in that aspect, in my opinion.
Not tune in because we've seen these attacks on the Don Callis family too many times.
Right. Now, do you agree with what I said about with Andrade that right now he's hot? He has that mouthpiece that he needs. They should just leave that shit alone right now because this is the hottest I've seen him, especially in AEW.
They flip-flop Andrade too much. They do not need to make him a babyface right now. Leave him with Cal's family. But he's got the gimmick with the girls and the pictures, and then he takes up it, which is more of a babyface looking thing than it is a heel.
Yeah, I agree.
So, but they flip-flop too much with Andrade, unfortunately.
Yep. All right, Robbie.
Yeah, I mean, I could see them taking Takesh out. I could see you taking Kyle Fletcher out because I think those two could do it on their own. Better mouthpieces and everything like that. Like you said, Andrade's hot right now, and I will give you that yes, this is probably the most I've ever seen any AEW or WWE crowd behind him. So they should have left him in there. Why that the storyline makes no sense. Why you've got Kyle Fletcher going, we should bring the title back to and now you got Andrade and you're all in the same camp. So you're looking at creating chaotic with all three of and then you're also have Takeshita with Okada, so you have dissension you're going to have dissension all the way around.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Overall, again, I didn't think it was a bad show. I personally would give it a B-. Robbie?
Because I had to hear Moxley on the do promo. I had to see Kenny Omega 3 times in there. I'd rather seen Don Callis 3 times. I'm going to give it a C-.
Wow.
MJF couldn't save him. If they'd have left MJF alone and didn't bring Kenny Omega out during that promo, and maybe a solid C, but I'm going to give him a C-.
Yeah, I completely disagree with that, but go ahead, Grizzle.
One thing we forgot to mention, we got to hear the illustrious tones of Taz back on the commentary.
Oh, yes.
The microphone. I love to hear him when he's back. I was like, oh, thank God.
I prefer Taz so much more than Daniel Bryan.
Yes, exactly. As far as the show goes, though, I'm going to give it a C just because of that backwards way of it went from the hottest match of the night down to instead of building up.
Fair enough. Guys, we're also now going to be talking about professional wrestling managers. Grizzle?
Yes. I brought this up because within the last couple of days, we've all seen this. There is some stuff floating around on social media from Paul Heyman. It was an interview he did. I'm not sure which show this was, but he had some comments about Bobby Heenan, and people have been sharing this. But I'm going to read kind of just what he said. It said, he's dead. What's he going to do? Come back and haunt you because you told the truth that he's no longer the greatest? Let's have this debate right now. I'm so sick of hearing that name. How many champions has Bobby Heenan managed? You can count them on one hand. Can't count mine on one hand. You can barely count them on 2. How many WrestleMania main events was he in? The only person that's been in more WrestleMania main events than me is Roman Reigns. If you want to just say, well, that doesn't count because you're a manager, an advocate, a wise man, an oracle. Okay, so let's put it this way. I'm in people's corners in WrestleMania. The number is 10. You know who's second place? Stephanie McMahon. You know what number she's at? 3. Please tell me how anybody measures up to my accomplishments. Where in the world can you say that Bobby Heenan is even in my league anymore? I manage more champions for a longer period of time and a longer period of time within their title reigns than anybody else in history. No one even comes close. They're not even in the same universe as me. So you genuflecting, that's an interesting word, genuflecting respect upon someone that is dead and whose numbers don't match mine is like saying that your next door neighbor who just hit the $1 million lottery is in the same league as Elon Musk. They're not. And Bobby Heenan's not in mine either. And that's the comment that Paulie dangerously brought up. Now, one thing I want to ask you guys, is this Paul speaking the truth, or is this Paul being Paul Heyman, the wise man, the oracle, the manager of the vision? Because for me, I don't think he's actually going to say something like this about Bobby Heenan.
Right. I agree. I think this definitely 100% kayfabe, because I've listened to his interviews before. I like Bob Cook. I love Paul Heyman, although he's not my list of managers for Mount Rushmore. I still love him, and I've listened to a lot of his interviews. And when we're talking to Paul Heyman, the guy, he is again very respectful, very humbled, and humble-ish, I should say. He still has, Paul Heyman is Paul Heyman. But I don't think he would ever say this about, Bobby the Brain Heenan, because he's usually pretty respectful when it comes to those before him who have paved the way for him. So absolutely, this is not a shoot. It's absolutely him being kayfabe. Robbie?
Yeah, I mean, but see, I have seen the side of him in the backstage, and he does have arrogance to him. Mm-hmm. But I do think it's a kayfabe. But I could also see it because I saw him backstage and just saw the arrogance at times in the backstage when he was in WCW when I was there. But I honestly think it's kayfabe. I just think, he's trying to, let's say sell podcasts or whatever,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's trying to get clicks, but it's been a very popular topic of discussion. Yep. is what he had to say. But what this brought up for me, and I thought this would be kind of fun, and I suggested you guys, and you all came up with a list right off the bat. Yep. We all talked Mount Rushmores. Okay, we're talking Paul Heyman, we're talking Bobby Heenan. I wanted us to pick our Mount Rushmore of wrestling managers. And I think we all came up with a decent list of managers. And what's funny about it all is every one of us picked Bobby Heenan. We all picked Heenan. There was no argument about that. Not everybody picked Heyman.
Nope.
But we're going to go with this. I'm going to go with Bob's list because Bob's not here tonight for the show. But his Mount Rushmore was Captain Leo Albano, the Grand Wizard, Sir Oliver Humperdinck, and Bobby Heenan. Now, obviously, Bob, more, old school territory, type of deals with the managers and all that. But I think there's a good argument for that. And 2 of my choices were also 2 of his. It's a slick Mount Rushmore. What do you guys think?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's when it comes to someone's Mount Rushmore, it's hard.
It's
to
personal
say,
preference,
right? That how can you be wrong? How can you tell someone wrong when that's the people that they like? Mm. Can I see that being a Mount Rushmore? Absolutely, I can. I mean, those are great, names that he mentioned. People that has done a lot in professional wrestling. Yeah. Robbie?
How about you, Robbie? What do you think of his Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, no, it's good. So, and I can see probably a couple, probably for Bob and myself, a couple that are on ours people that we have worked with also though. So, right. We have been backstage with them, and so, there's a little bit of probably a sentimental value just because we've got to interact with them.
Right.
Did you work with Sir Oliver Humperdinck?
Yes.
Okay.
It's in the book. It's in the book.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, yeah, just based on that
He
one.
was a
That's
big
right.
reason why, from Florida Championship Wrestling.
Okay, that's right. The Florida tie. Sorry, I'm not.
That's
on
okay.
the
That's
ball
okay.
today.
I know.
Damn it.
It's Thursday night.
It's Thursday night. Wait till tomorrow night, man. I'm gonna.
I know, right? Wait, yes.
Oh,
Okay,
God.
there it is. Now, Robbie, we'll go to your Mount Rushmore. Your selections were Sir Oliver Humperdinck, Jim Cornette, Gary Hart, Bobby the Brain Heenan.
And yeah, and I mean, like I said, too, because I had interaction with Cornette and Sir Oliver. I grew up watching Gary Hart from Florida Championship Wrestling. So and then and I saw when we finally got cable, I saw Bobby the Brain Heenan. So, and it just, but like the two, probably three. I would say the big three sentimental though would be Gary Hart because I grew up watching him. And sentimental wise would be Cornette and Sir Oliver, and I had interactions with both, but probably more with Sir Oliver Humperdinck. That where he gave you advice, talked to you and gave you advice and everything, and just was very close. Won't say very very close, but was close to him. And before he had passed, between him, Bob, and I, we were talking, and he would come back and forth. I think he lived in Minnesota, somewhere in Minnesota, and like as a snowbird or whatever, and then he'd come back to Florida, and we were supposed to, when he came back down, Bob, and I were all going to get together and go to lunch, and then unfortunately he had passed. But I mean, Humperdinck for me was probably most sentimental because he did help me, early in my career and everything.
Yeah, I actually wrote.
Oh, sorry.
No, I said I actually wrote a really nice piece on Gary Hart. But there's a story about Gary Hart. I'm not going to try to tell the story because I can't remember. It's somewhere in a podcast I heard. But basically, it was oh shoot. I can't remember who told the story. But in a nutshell, the story was about Gary Hart, how he already carried this really big knife on him. And he made sure that the promoters for these indie companies knew he had this knife to make sure that you're fucking paying me, buddy, for the night.
Well, Gary Hart came from the streets of Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And plus with Sir Oliver Humperdinck, you guys probably you wouldn't have seen it, but when Kevin did his dark side stuff, like I want to say 85, 86, I think, probably somewhere in that time frame. Mm-hmm. Humperdinck was part of him. It was, Kevin Sullivan, Bob Roop, the Purple Haze. Humperdinck was in there. Luna Vachon was there, Woman, and just all of it just all clicked. Every one of them it all clicked, but Hump was in there too.
Yeah. By the way, it's Telly Long on the Undertaker's podcast. He tells that great story about Gary Hart, and you guys should check that out. And before we go any further, because you brought it up, I want to bring for those who live out in where's that? For those who live out in Florida, there is a Luna Vachon is at AMC Theater number 2 on May 3rd at 4:15. There is going to be the premiere of a documentary on Luna Vachon that I have the clip of it on my page, KG Landry's Facebook page. Check that out, guys. Man, I wish I lived it. I wish it's a week before we get to Florida, and I wish we were there then because that is something I would have loved to see. Go ahead, Grizzle.
One thing I'd like to ask you, Robbie, get your opinion, KG, yours too. We're talking Gary Hart, and you're mentioning, watching him in Florida. Do you think that as far as manager-wise goes, though, would he have been better known for his work here, where I live? Because obviously everybody associates Gary Hart with world-class championship wrestling. Where do you think his more? Do you think he's more? You're saying Florida, which is great because that's his back history. But would he be more kind of like known, recognized, accepted with, Texas? Because I haven't seen a lot of his Florida stuff. I'll be honest with you.
Right. Yeah, true. So, yeah, because think I was a kid. So you're talking 72, 73, 74.
Okay.
70.
I was in diapers, so I was not watching Gary Hart.
And what was cool was he was with Pac Song.
Mhm.
So, and Pac Song would have feuds with Dusty Rhodes, and Gary Hart was Pac Song's mouthpiece, and he was the mouthpiece way back when. So, I mean, I didn't get to see a lot of Texas stuff, but I would probably say Gary Hart because Texas was, more widespread, maybe to more areas. He'd have to be better known from Texas than Florida. Because when I saw him in Florida, you're talking in, the mid 70s, maybe late 70s. And, how Florida was just kind of confined to here. So if you didn't live in Florida, you didn't really see it. So he had to be better known from Texas.
Yeah, Texas, he was associated with Kabuki and, Killer Tim Brooks and the One Man Gang. And he had some of the baddest guys back in that Texas time.
Right. I was going to say, I don't know where he'd been greatest known at, but I do know that if it was not for Gary Hart, we wouldn't have one of the greatest, what's the word before, creepiest guys, I guess, in professional wrestling that we had, which was Kabuki, because that was a Gary Hart creation. He created that. So, very rarely do I hear Gary Hart's name mentioned when we're talking about the greats when it comes to managers. But he should absolutely be in that conversation because, again, just that one thing, creating Kabuki the way he did, puts him on a map, in my opinion. Not to mention all the other great stuff that he did. And a lot of people also don't know that, Bruiser Brody was also responsible for the creation in the smaller sets, but for, Kabuki as well.
There's a lot of work in the piece for Kabuki, actually. Yeah. And then, of course, from Kabuki, when Gary Hart was in WCW, that's why they paired him with, the Great Muta, because that was the son of the Great Kabuki,
right.
Which is kind of fun because it was able to play into, Gary's back history with Kabuki that now he managed the son of, the Great Kabuki.
Right. And I worked, so he was there when I worked Muta. So he was
like working Muta. I'm just going to throw this out there.
That's right, man.
When I was growing up,
myself. It was Muta. It was Muta that he created.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought Muta was like just one of the greatest at the time when I was a kid because there wasn't anything like him.
Right. Yep,
yeah.
Yep.
See, I mean, I wish I could. I wish I could get my hands on the match. Like I said, I remember working him. I don't remember, it went well because, but I would love to see the match again. Just, because I know he didn't speak English. So I'm trying to figure out how how everything went. I mean.
No, go ahead.
No, so I would love to see that match.
Yeah, and again, I want to correct myself. It was Gary Hart that created Muta, and
it's the son of the Great Kabuki. Yeah,
right.
He managed Kabuki in Texas.
Right. Wait, so Kabuki was the son, right, or was it Muta was the son?
Muta was the son of the Great Kabuki.
Okay, so then I was right. It was Great Kabuki that he created. Jesus. But
yeah, Muta was supposed to be the son of the Great Kabuki.
Okay, but the question for you, Robbie, was: did you have the green mist sprayed in your face?
No.
Oh, he never took the mist. Missy Hyatt took the mist, man. Come on.
Yeah, I did what I was told. So I don't even remember actually, I don't even remember what the finish was.
Yeah.
So whatever he used as
more than likely, probably the moonsault, because I think that's what he was always doing back then.
Right, and it might have been the moonsault that I took.
Yeah.
For that finish, I didn't take the miss, but like I said, he didn't speak English, so that's why I would, I'd kind of like to see how that whole match went again, because it was so long ago. You knew that it was, it was special that you got to work with them. But,
I think it's out there somewhere. Might have to look.
I've tried to find it. I can't find it.
What I find interesting about Gary Hart as well, especially back then, you had the managers who were kind of cowardly, right? You would see them and you wouldn't really perceive these managers as great threats themselves. But Gary Hart was one of those managers that he wasn't that cowardly Bobby the Brain Heenan type character or the Jim Cornette. Gary Hart was somebody that could absolutely hurt you himself.
You legit thought he'd cut your throat.
Yeah.
It was that whole, like I said, that whole Chicago mob style thing. You believed his shit.
Right. That's why him being a manager in that era was so different than so many of the other wrestling managers that you've seen.
Yeah. All right, we're going to move on here. We're going to go on to KG's list because yours one, of course, you had to go with more than just 4 because
it's hard.
You don't follow anything. But you had one pick that got my attention. I want to hear your explanation on this one.
Yeah.
Your choices were Bobby the Brain Heenan, Jim Cornette, Classy Freddie Blassie, Gary Hart, Captain Lou Albano, Bobby Davis.
Yes,
I thought that was an interesting choice because that's something that, I mean, we're old, but we're not that old. And you brought up Bobby Davis
because I've always been a heel guy and I love heel managers. And Bobby Davis, man, without Bobby Davis, in my opinion, they would have never been a Jim Cornette or a Bobby the Brain Heenan. Jesus. Because Bobby Davis was really one of the first managers that was really part of also creating storylines for managers as well. And I mean, the guys that he absolutely managed the Nature Boy, Buddy Rogers, the Graham Brothers, Johnny Valentine, Johnny Barron, Magnificent Maurice, Don Juan the Magnificent. I mean, this man in many ways was the pave setter for so many heel managers that went on to have great careers.
I can agree that, and just those names you're throwing at, man, you got to stretch and reach back to pull out some of those names of those guys. Jesus.
Yeah.
But no, I thought because Bobby Davis, you would think like Bob, maybe Robbie might have come up with something like that, but no, you. I thought that was kind of interesting. That was kind of one of the more unique choices. We all had great choices. I don't disagree with anybody. My choices were, Captain Lou, Bobby Heenan, Jimmy Hart. I'm the only one who mentioned Jimmy Hart and Jim Cornette.
Right.
And out of the 4 of those, my personal favorite is always Jim Cornette. I mean, just from watching him back on, the old stuff that I could find through Territory Days, going up into what he was doing Crockett, going into Smoky Mountain, his stuff in Jim Cornette is just amazing. And I've actually had the opportunity to, he did a show here, 2 shows here in Texas that I helped run. I got to sit in the dressing room while Jim Cornette laid out the finish for the main event and said, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. And he was so meticulous and so detailed. You're like, how is everybody going to remember this? And then I got to sit in the back of the room because I was doing something else that time to watch that finish layout. And it laid out flawlessly. Everything he said went out step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. It was flawless. So for me to get to watch that is like one of the greatest things I could say I've seen is to watch him lay that out. The man is a genius.
You talk about Jimmy Hart. I didn't leave Jimmy Hart out of my list because I thought he was less than. It was one of those things that I already had a hard time. There was no way I could just pick 4. And so I already picked 5. Yeah. And I was like, man, if I put Jimmy Hart on there, then I might have 6 people. So that means I need to take somebody out. And then I just couldn't take anyone out of the 5 that I already had. But Jimmy Hart 100% deserves to be in the list as well because he's great. I mean, talk about the Hart Foundation. He was part of Hulk Hogan for such a long time as well.
Mm-hmm.
Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect. So many great.
The Nasty Boys. Don't forget the Nasty Boys. The Nasty Boys.
Yeah. Jimmy Hart, he absolutely deserves to be on that list.
Now we're going to go to the because let me throw this in about Jimmy Hart. My thing with picking Jimmy is not just because of the thing, but like you said, Hogan and things that he was also part of. And this is the thing I'd love to talk about in a history segment sometime on the show, just this angle period. He was part of Lawler versus Kaufman, which is one of the first times that professional wrestling broke out into the mainstream, being on David Letterman and being in the newspapers because it was Andy Kaufman. Jimmy Hart was part of that. Jimmy Hart was part of Hogan. Jimmy Hart has been a major part of a lot of when Hogan went to WCW, there was Jimmy Hart. Yep. When Hogan was in WWF as the champion, Jimmy Hart was the manager of a lot of the guys that were going after Hogan. Jimmy Hart has always been while he may not have been, maybe money-wise or maybe as known as some of that, he was always a part of such major angles and such major pieces of wrestling history that you've got to incorporate Jimmy Hart onto a Rushmore just of what he was able to participate in.
By the way, speaking of Jimmy Hart, California Club, reunion, Jimmy Hart is going to be in concert.
Yeah.
That's going to be great.
Yeah. Make sure you're covering that for the podcast. And if he busts out Eat Your Heart Out Rick Springfield, I want a copy of the video. If he does not play Eat Your Heart Out Rick Springfield, I will be disappointed.
Yeah. And there's rumors that he's going to be bringing a lot of surprises that night. So
what is the 60th? I'm hoping to try to be there. I'm working on it right now. Financially, it's not working out very well, but I'm trying. Yep. Maybe if I stand on the side of the road with my thumb out, somebody going to Vegas might swing by and pick me up. I don't know. Might be a little bit out of your way. Anyways, we're gonna go with last because I got to give Gerald his props, and I love the way he did this. His Mount Rushmore: Bobby Heenan, Jim Cornette, Paul Heyman, Jimmy Hart, like me. But then he had it in the coup to this, and there's the part where I have no idea who the managers are that some of y'all name without pictures. I love that. He had to throw in I don't know who some of these fuckers are.
I think especially Bobby Davis is who he's talking about. A lot of people don't know who Bobby Davis is.
I'm thinking Bobby Davis, Grand Wizard might not be one he knows too well. And as far as Sir Oliver Humperdinck, I don't know. I've seen obviously footage of Florida, but what I remember him mainly from was being Big Daddy Dink in WCW.
Right. Yeah. Bob Cook says Terry and Dory too.
Yep. But anyways, with the Paul Heyman thing, and one more topic before we end this one, because like I said, we all picked him. What made Bobby Heenan so great? I mean, all of us picked Bobby Heenan as one of our Mount Rushmore. It was the only unanimous decision.
Timing. Seriously, timing. It doesn't matter if Bobby the Brain Heenan, God damn, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Jesus. It doesn't matter if Bobby was commentary. It doesn't matter if he was the acting manager just around the ring on the floor, or if he was being interviewed or in the ring. His timing for whatever he did was always impeccable. Always. He knew when he needed to get his ass kicked. He knew what smart-ass comment to make next, and when it was time for him to make a smart-ass comment versus letting something go. He just always knew what to do at what time he should do it. In my opinion, he's probably the perfect manager in professional wrestling because of that. He just knew what he knew and where to be at and the time to be at.
What's your take on Heenan, Robbie?
Yeah, I totally agree with KG. With the timing and stuff like that. So
Bob says Hump, talk about Sir Oliver, is the one that got me in WCW.
I'm embarrassed that most of my knowledge of Oliver Humperdinck is Big Daddy Dink. I mean, I've seen stuff, from Florida and everywhere else. And I remember, but Big Daddy Dink was what my exposure was.
Speaking of Bob Cook, by the way, guys, again, please follow me on Facebook, KG Landry. I have a snippet of a video of Bob Cook and Barry Windham. And you want to know, for those who may not be familiar with Bob Cook back in his day, why they call him the best puncher in the business. Go watch this snippet of a video and you will find out why Bob Cook, to this day, in my opinion, has the best punch in the
Barry
business.
Windham looked rocked in that video.
Yep. He managed.
Yes, and he managed Bam Bam Bigelow in the WWF. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm just saying, the majority of my exposure to Oliver Humperdinck, who I met at CAC and was just the greatest guy. They took a picture of me and my friend Joe with him in the lobby and just kind of referred to us as two members of Humperdinck's army. And I'm like, all right, this is cool. Because they were just doing, they do the random, just shots of people. And they just happened to catch us coming out of the lobby into the casino. So we got our picture with him and all that. So hell of a nice guy. I'll give you all the credit in the world on that one. He was a hell of a nice dude.
So why you asked us, why did Bobby make your list?
Basically, kind of the same thing you said. The way he did things, the way you could hate Bobby Heenan, and then he would take that hate from this fan and push it onto his guy. Bobby represented his guy, and that's the thing about it, as the manager goes, is you get the heat, you transfer it to your guy. I've had so many people tell me that. A good manager gets the heat and puts it over on his guy. Bobby did that. And then when he went to commentary and all that, the comments, we all remember stuff like, Chico Santana and all the other weirdo comments he made. But not weirdo comments, but the jokes. Bobby Heenan was sharp. He was witty, and that was and he was an intelligent guy too. He didn't talk down to people, even though he called you humanoids. He still, he didn't treat you like, the fans were stupid. He was a great man. He was a CAC 1 year. And this is, of course, after he'd had the cancer surgery and jaw removed. And it was hard to get a picture with him. Me and a friend of mine we couldn't get to him because they just didn't want to get. But when you'd see him taking pictures with people, it was always the same thing. Him there and just and flipping people off. It was just Bobby. Why? Right. He couldn't say anything because of the cancer, so he couldn't speak much. So he'd be like, okay, I'll just stick out my finger. I'll flip people off. And people laughed about it because that was Bobby.
Right. And one of the great things about Bobby as well was he called out Tony Schiavone. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
Bob Cook says, and as of today, Robert Idol is going to find out about that punch at the Twisted Fork. Uh-oh.
Yeah, well, at the Twisted Fork, Bob's going to find out why I swing a kendo stick, too.
So you swing it, you beat their asses with it.
So is this big news? Did Bob hold on real quick? Is this big news? Did Bob get released and is able to be interjected in that match?
No, he's probably just mouthing off. But if he does get involved in it and he doesn't make that dinner afterwards, now you'll know why, KG, because I whacked the piss out of him with that kendo stick. So if he interjects himself, he might not make dinner.
Have stick will travel.
Wow. Guys, this wraps up this episode of the podcast. Speaking of people getting their ass kicked, maybe it might be Robbie, might be Bob, might be Bob's son. I don't know. Robbie, tell us more.
Okay, May 9th at the Twisted Fork in Port Charlotte, Florida. The main event is Robbie Cook, Joe Sarcino, and Chief Eddie Two Rivers versus myself, Brian Johnson, and Richie Paradise in a bunkhouse brawl. The war to settle the score. So
Bob says he's going to eat pizza, throw a punch, and then run back and eat the pizza.
Let's put it this way. I've never seen Bob run in the 40 plus years I've worked. So he may waddle and eat pizza, but he ain't running because I've never seen him run in my entire life.
Wow.
Grizzle, what's going on, man, with you?
Oh, as always, man, Rasslin Memories every Sunday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time on Pioneer 90.1 FM KSRQ. Stream us live at radionorthland.org. Search for Pioneer 90.1 on the TuneIn Radio app, or search for Pioneer Community Radio. We have a guest coming up in the next couple weeks you'll be familiar with. Melody Koloff is going to be joining us to talk about her grandfather, Ivan Koloff. And I have a little connection with Ivan because I did an interview with him back in 2014. So I'll be looking forward to kind of talking with her about that and her legendary grandfather and kind of what's happening with the Koloff family name. So that's coming up soon on Rasslin Memories.
Yeah, Melody Koloff, man, she is awesome. And guys, you guys don't forget to check the episode out. I guarantee you, it will probably be the second best interview that she's had. Of course, the first being me. But anyway, guys, on Friday, tomorrow.
But he's not a gambling man, so he won't bet on it.
Tomorrow, I'm pulling double duty. Before we do our podcast, our review of Friday Night SmackDown, 30 minutes after it goes off air, I'm going to be interviewing at 5 p.m. The second part, actually, part 2 of Mike Kinney, professional wrestler locally here in Minnesota, who is also a motivational speaker. He's actually retired from professional wrestling, but I just heard that he may have taken a GM for a local promotion. We'll find that out tomorrow. So again, Mike Kinney, 5 p.m. Central. Please subscribe.
I hope you're taking your wife out Saturday night.
What's that?
I hope you're taking your wife out to dinner on Saturday night. Dude,
we went out.
Interview at 5, SmackDown for 3 hours, then you got to come and talk to our dumbasses for an hour and a half about SmackDown. Your wife's going to be sitting out in the living room. You're ignoring her. You best be taking her out to a nice
We went out to dinner tonight, and we'll probably go out to dinner Saturday night.
All right, I would say so, because that's a lot.
Yeah.
And you want people to turn in tomorrow night. We may confirm a rumor.
Oh, so we may confirm a rumor tomorrow night.
Caught up on Tuesday night.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We will see that. Please subscribe to the podcast. Also, look for me on Facebook at KG Landry. And then follow us on Facebook as well. Get your bell rung up, Pro Wrestling Podcast. You can find Robbie Idol on Facebook. Robbie?
Use my real name. So it'll be Robert Beauclair. And if you go, I'm also on Instagram as Robbie Raw Dog Idol. You can find me on Instagram. I don't post a lot on Instagram, but I'm on them. If you feel like being a friend, hit me up.
Grizzle.
You can find me on Facebook, man. Just don't search for the Grizzled Vet. Although I am working on that page, it will be going live soon. You'll find me. Just search for Michael McCurdy. You'll see me on there. I share wrestling stuff. I share funny stories about my kids. My life in general.
Yeah, you guys can find Bob Cook on Facebook. Just look up Bob Cook. Also, support his YouTube channel, Knievel's Corner. He posts a lot of videos about Evel Knievel on there. So, Rob, you about to say something?
I was going to say, or if you look for Bob Cook, just look for the Grumpy Bastard on Facebook.
That's how I found him. Just kidding, Bob.
And don't confuse him with the other grouchy bastard. Of course, talking about Bret Hart. Nope. Bob Cook. Anyway, guys, again, subscribe to the podcast. You guys have a great weekend. We'll be back again Friday night, 30 minutes after SmackDown. And we will be also covering a Raw on Tuesday, and then every Thursday night as well, the three of us doing AEW Dynamite. Until then, you guys have a great rest of your week and a great weekend.
Have a good one.